Everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Gary.
Hey, today we've decided to talk about data centers. So, data centers are in the news everywhere. The amount of money that's going into data centers, the pushback on data centers in various communities. I think it was it New York and Texas put a ban on new data centers, or at least a moratorium. So we thought we'd go back and talk about what they are, what they're used for, how long have they been around, and then some of these issues surrounding data centers. What is a data center? I'll just start off saying data centers have been around since probably the 50s or 60s. We hear about it now because of AI, and we talked about a lot of pushback or fear, but they have been around, like I said, for a long time. And basically, when you put something in the cloud, you hear about the cloud, like you go to your emails in the cloud or Google Drives in the cloud or whatever. It's not in the cloud. There's no cloud up there storing it. It's a machine. It's a room, a gigantic room, probably with a bunch of servers and
That's true.
very,
You might as well settle that one.
yeah, very
It's not
real
in the cloud.
hardware. It's not anywhere up there.
No.
It's just
Yeah.
here. So instead of having it on your computer or on a USB stick or something, it's in the cloud. So we've used them for banking, for let's see what are some of the streaming, YouTube. This that we're on right now, this podcast software is in the cloud. I go to the website to run it. Hospitals, government. There's thousands of applications that aren't AI, before AI, that are in data centers.
You're saying that people think of data centers as all AI, but they're not. I mean, now, admittedly, there may be, what was it, 25% now or something like that? But that's the growing percentage. So practically speaking, yeah, a lot of the new data centers are going to end up being dedicated to AI processing and stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think not knowing the numbers, I thought, wow, it must be like 80, 90 AI, but it's like 20, 25. It
yeah.
is the fastest growing. I think at least half of new data center capacity is going to be for AI, which people have an insatiable appetite for AI, as we do. And it's going to strain a lot of electrical grids and so forth. But right now, a great majority of data centers is not for AI.
Yeah.
So what are the problems that people have with data centers?
When I was reading the stuff that you dug up, the research out and all, I just kept thinking, well, there's a lot of easy answers here.
Mm.
Clearly, these things are breaking at least the spirit of zoning laws and stuff, different places. Nobody should have to put up with noise of fans and things like that. And clearly, nobody should suddenly have higher power bills because a data center went in next door. So, so now it's not a technical problem, it's a problem of governance. Where we are not sufficiently represented by our government if they're able to, steal land in some cases just to put in these data centers. So, I mean, the only answer on that one is to vote for people who support your interests over corporate interests.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because there's they call it NIMBY, not in my backyard issue, which people sometimes put that down like it's people being fussy. But I live in an area where there's nowhere to put a data center. So this is not for me. But if I did and somebody wanted to put in a data center close, I would be upset because they are noisy and bothersome. And like I said, they could increase your electric bills. And so there's the personal aspect, but then there's also the more global aspect, which would be power consumption. We have famously a grid in the United States, electrical grid, that's not super modern and sophisticated. And so we're going to have trouble. These things take a huge amount of power. They're going to have a difficult time building out the infrastructure to support these data centers.
When I said, rather, there was easy answers. When I say easy answers, I mean, for instance, a new data center should be responsible for establishing their own energy source. And we should require it be, renewable or not putting, more pollution into the air. So I think there are kind of easy answers, stricter zoning and make them account for their own power and make sure they're built in places where the water is sufficient to support them. I mean, they're just sort of common sense rules that have to be followed if we're not going to have people angry and, trying to burn them down.
Mhm. How much do you think opposition to data centers is just people who are opposed to AI?
I do think people lump it all together in their
Mhm.
heads all the time,
Yeah.
and they do sort of go lump together. But that's its own entire can of worms. I was going to say today is we're talking about data centers, and I still feel that we can punt the issue of AI because that's just one of the things, even if it's the majority one in those data centers.
Uh-huh.
In other words, the solutions to the immediate data center problems are not about AI at all. It's about
Uh-huh.
land use and fan noises and all sorts of things.
Uh-huh. You have these various reasons people are against them. Obviously, reasons people are for them because there's a huge
Yeah,
amount of money going into them. But what would be the breakdown? Like, how many people are just concerned about the environment versus
yeah,
like if it's not anywhere near me, are they fine with it? I, there are
yeah,
probably a lot of people like that. Like if it didn't affect their electrical bill and didn't
yeah.
affect their water bill and it wasn't noisy, they probably wouldn't care. We're all using this stuff. Everyone.
Right.
I mean, who's not using the internet?
Yeah, and probably you and I are bigger. We're certainly not corporate users, but we're bigger users than most of the neighbors around us, I'm sure. So we probably put greater value on what AI can do and danger probably than most people do.
I've wrestled with this a lot because I see huge value in AI,
Hmm.
but I also see huge risks as well as just nuisances with fake videos and
Mm.
misinformation and so forth. So it's definitely a double-edged sword.
Right.
I if I had to choose, I wouldn't want to go back to not having it. I think not having Claude and ChatGPT and all these models would be hard at this
Right.
point.
But we do have to have a government that's on our side when it comes to the rules these corporations follow. And I think that's a big complaint a lot of people have is it certainly doesn't feel that way.
So Gary, why don't we put all these out in the desert somewhere?
Well, actually, I asked you that, and
Yeah.
you did the research. And yeah, so it's sort of like there's kind of two kinds of data centers. There's the kind that needs to be close to town or where you're at for streaming and certain functions.
Mhm.
But there's also another kind of data center that just sits there and does massive processing, and that can be out in the middle of anywhere.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's kind of all of the above as far as that and new ones.
That's a good point. You talked about what they're used for regarding AI. You hear about these large language models that are basically taking in the entire internet and more and churning out models. And those require huge amounts of computational power. I mean, just unimaginable amounts. But they, like you said, they can be off on their own, churning away because nobody's referencing those models. And then once the model is complete, then you have the inference. And the inference is when you type something into ChatGPT or your agent accesses Claude, and it accesses that model that's already pre-baked now. And that's where it probably needs to be closer. Typically, they want it closer to the user. SpaceX now, but Grok, Tesla, they had the Colossus. They called it this
Yeah,
gigantic data center. It was in Tennessee or something.
yeah, yeah,
Satan,
yeah.
but
And it will connect with Skynet.
Skynet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
name of it.
yeah.
But yeah, they just need massive horsepower to get those things built.
But I
And
still
then
think for a lot of people that's an important nuance. Why what kind of data centers being too flavored and all that.
mm,
But to a lot of people, that's going to be forever irrelevant. They just see data centers as big government trying to encroach and take away my freedoms. Having a different discussion entirely than we might be.
you have a good point. We used to always talk about in technology the black box, right? So the black
Mhm.
box is what you can't see. You just know something goes in and then something comes out. And at some level, there's always a black box. Like when we used to program and the compiler would run, I don't know what the compiler is doing. At the end, it spits out the machine code that runs. But I
Mhm.
think for a lot of people, the whole AI is just this big black box. They don't understand any of how it works. Maybe they don't even use it. I know people, intelligent people, who don't ever use AI. I just talked to somebody the other day, hates AI, will never in their life use it. Probably doesn't realize when they do a Google search now it's using AI. But yeah, they don't understand it and they fear it,
Yeah.
hate it. And I think you're right. So with the data centers, the same thing. What is it? Data centers are AI, and it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I can't entirely disagree with it, but you know, we we still have to find a way forward, I think.
I know people like that. Again, they're saying they sound kind of crazy almost, but then you realize that some of the stuff they're saying could be true.
Right. I mean, it can be used.
Mm,
AI can be used to surveil us in ways that go way beyond what it did in the past. So they just see this stuff as, I don't want it even near me. I'm going to keep my phone in a Faraday bag. And, they're just really resistant to this. And, I mean, if the world ends next Tuesday because of AI, they were right.
Okay, Gary. So I want to revisit something. You mentioned that you think the data center issues are more of a governance problem.
Yeah, I mean, you and I tend to approach it as more of an engineering issue of like, where do they build them? What are they for? All that.
Mhm,
But for so many people, and this is kind of what I already said, is it's more of a bigger issue of lack of freedom. They're losing their freedom because of it.
mhm.
And, I can't really deny that. I mean, AI has the ability to track you and surveil you in ways that was never possible before. So they're worried about losing control. And again, I just don't disagree with them.
I have a theory you follow the money. The money's power. And
Mhm.
that's definitely what's happening. The more they can, and I don't think it's always nefarious. It's just they want to send us ads and get us to buy things. And I don't know. Anyone out there, tell me in the comments, because I've had this happen like 3 or 4 times. I'll be talking to somebody about something, and then all of a sudden I get an ad like on YouTube for that very thing. And it's something, oh, you mentioned something the other day. I think it was for their chicken coop or something.
Right, yeah.
Oh, it was electric fence for chicken coops to
Mhm.
keep out varmints. And I've never in my life searched for that. And you mentioned it. And literally the next day I get an ad for
Yeah.
electric chicken coop wire. The corporations and so forth will do whatever they can to advertise to us and sell to us.
Yeah,
Um,
it all feeds into the bigger conspiracy. Those little examples don't exactly inspire confidence in our privacy. So yeah,
well, maybe we should address that. You and I both have said that we don't feel that we have any privacy.
yeah, I just assume whenever I'm talking to you, doing anything online, there's zero privacy. Yeah,
Right.
I just
Anything you do on
hadn't
your
formulated.
computer is, yeah, so don't do things on your computer that you don't want people to see because probably
Yeah.
somebody will see it. When you're in public, there's cameras everywhere and these new flock cameras and you're being
Hmm.
filmed. So you kind of, we don't have a lot of privacy.
No.
And I think whether that's right or wrong, it's just the reality.
Yeah.
And with AI, it'll probably get more so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today's discussion on data centers. We'd love to see your comments and see what you all think about the whole topic. So, Gary?
Okay. See you later.
Okay, bye, everyone.